Hello and welcome to the May 2021 webinar update session from the Maths and English team at Sittingbourne. It's Paul providing you with the narration for this month, and this month we're going to attempt to look forward to how Maths, English and ESOL delivery might look from this autumn onwards and how we might be able to support some of the likely range of approaches. As usual, we've kind of settled into this pattern of running 3 live sessions each month with the recorded version sort of provided shortly afterwards. It seems to be working as a format, but as always, we'd welcome your thoughts on whether this works for you or whether we should try something different in the future. The recordings and slides from this session, and indeed from all previous months, can be found on the Maths and English Resource Hub webpage. As we've indicated in previous months, the number of new questions we've been receiving has tended to kind of slow down, but you can find the most up-to-date version of the Q&A within the functional skills qualification documents page. Whilst we always allow a bit of time to take questions at the end of the live sessions, you're also always welcome to email us at any time using pre-employment@sittingbourne.com. So after a break from last month, we've brought back the In Case You Missed It slot. You may have seen that the government is now sort of bringing forward legislation to enact most of the proposals that were in the Skills for Jobs white paper that was published in England. Although there's quite a lot in these proposals about trying to raise the profile and status of the FE sector within England, the white paper didn't say a huge amount about Maths, English or ESOL specifically, other than to make clear that the full funding legal entitlement for adults without a level 2 qualification in Maths and English will continue. We've drawn attention to this before, the temporary sequencing flexibility that the government introduced in February for apprentices who've yet to complete their mandatory Maths and English qualifications, but in all other respects are ready to pass through the gateway and attempt their endpoint assessment. This flexibility, it's important to appreciate, only applies if the apprentice starts their EPA before the 31st of May. After that, we assume the normal arrangements, i.e. Maths and English must have already been certificated at the required level before passing through gateway will resume. It's also worth pointing out that that flexibility only applies where the reason for not having achieved these qualifications is COVID related. And again, worth noting that the temporary suspension of the take the test at level 2 rule for level 2 apprentices whose standard only requires Maths and English at level 1. It has been extended through till the end of July, but again we're expecting that rule to be reinstated after then. The link on this particular slide takes you straight to the guidance information from the DfE and Education and Skills Funding Agency. It's important to read that information carefully. And then finally, on the In Case You Missed It, we are a bit later on in this session going to ask you rhetorically about some of the support that you might like to be looking for as we move beyond the summer and into what I'm refusing to call the new normal. We have been doing a little bit of tweaking to the kind of lineup of sessions in any case. For example, running some drop-in sessions for colleagues based in Northern Ireland and Wales, as well as a couple of networks that have been focused specifically around the bite-sized Maths and English offer. You can always get details of all of the sessions for which we have firm dates and booking details on the Maths and English Resource Hub. A couple of other updates here now. Firstly, a little bit of good news. The Evolve Centre Analytics tool is back up and running again. You may have seen that it's been out of action since the Evolve upgrade at the end of last year, but that has now, I'm pleased to say, been rectified, which might prompt some of you to be asking, what is Centre Analytics? Well, basically it's a tool that enables you to dig into candidates' performance data from any test or exam delivered through the Evolve platform. So, for example, any functional skills or ESOL reading exam that's been delivered on screen. It's in addition to the score reports that get issued to individual candidates ahead of their formal confirmation of results. But what it does do is allow you to look for any patterns or trends. For example, if candidates are consistently losing marks against particular subject content statements. It's also now possible to use the Centre Analytics tool to look up performance codes and actual raw marks for candidates who've completed paper functional skills exams. The performance codes have always been printed on the paper notification of results sheet, and there's a glossary and explanation document on our Functional Skills Qualification Documents webpage that explains what these codes mean. The difference with Centre Analytics is it enables those codes to be accessed in an electronic format, and alongside that information there is also each candidate's actual mark. Another update on the subject of OpenAssess, we did have to kind of fess up in April to the old version of OpenAssess being permanently withdrawn from use. In the meantime, we have been making progress on its replacement and now quite close to being able to confirm its launch date, and we do anticipate that being over the next month, towards the certainly before the end of June. Although the functionality of this new version will be broadly the same as the previous OpenAssess, the look and feel is a little bit different, so there will be some guidance to help you get up and running with it. In the meantime, probably worth just reiterating that the sample tests in on-screen format are still available from the Functional Skills Qualifications page. To access those, you need to click on the Information tab and then select either Level 1 or Level 2. As well as the full-length tests, there's also a navigation test that can be used to help familiarise with the tools used within the maths exams. Important to say that these samples do need to be opened using Surpass Viewer, but they have been built to look exactly like a real Evolve test with all of the same functionality. Important not to confuse these with the separate PDF sample tests that are also available from the qualification document page, which we've recently reformatted with editable answer boxes alongside each question. The sample papers are all drawn from the same pool, so the mark schemes are the same whether you're looking at the paper PDF version or its on-screen equivalent, although there are slightly fewer examples in the on-screen format. So, managed to get a few minutes into this session without talking about the alternative assessment arrangements, the tag process for functional skills and ESOL. Probably just worth quickly recapping on where we are with that. The eligibility booking and submission processes are now underway, and you can find all the documents and guidance for this on the COVID functional skills and ESOL pages, depending on which particular qualifications you're working with. Once again, I think it is worth just saying that the teacher assessed grades are only possible as an absolute last resort once all other possibilities for conducting live assessments have been exhausted. And with lockdown restrictions gradually being eased everywhere and more providers and workplaces having the means of being able to carry out live assessments, we are in practice seeing far fewer instances where tag is genuinely unavoidable or genuinely needed. So a quick point about the eligibility rationale form, which needs to be completed alongside any eligibility bookings. It does ask for quite a lot of detail, so we can really genuinely evaluate the reasons being put forward for why a tag might be needed for that particular learner, and in turn quite important that because we also need to demonstrate to the regulator that we're only allowing tag where it's genuinely justifiable. Also important just from the perspective of providing insight into how you intend to go about determining results for any learners who are going to be eligible to go through that tag process. And another update, you probably have seen that we closed the London testing site for the facilitated functional skills tests at the beginning of this month, and more recently we've confirmed that the 2 remaining sites in Bristol and Birmingham are also going to be stood down at the end of this month. Again, with lockdown restrictions being eased, we're not seeing the same level of demand for these sites, and we have seen the inquiries tail off quite significantly in the last few weeks. Nevertheless, I think we do recognise this service has been quite helpful to quite a number of centres and learners, particularly apprentices. So it has been an important part of what we've been willing and able to do to support learners during the pandemic. Important also, just to quickly shout out thanks to National Express for stepping in to help with the cost of transporting learners to these venues. So another update from us on that. What I'm going to do now is just quickly turn our attention to the maths, English and ESOL landscape from this autumn, once TAG and all of the sort of current COVID specific adaptation measures have gone. I think just asking everybody to reflect a little bit on what that future is going to look like, how much you envisage delivery being face-to-face, virtual or blended, what kind of support are you going to be looking for from us, especially but also more generally too. How much are you looking to meet face-to-face? Are you happy to keep Zooming? I think our sense generally is that most people probably wouldn't mind a mixture of the two. So what we would have done if you were joining the live session was ask you a few poll questions. What I'm going to do instead though is show you those questions, and you are more than welcome to email us with any thoughts on them. So just to tap into those, first question obviously was particularly around how much you might envisage face-to-face versus remote versus a mixture of the two. Second question was really about the sort of support that you might be particularly looking to see from us, and this is not an exhaustive list. You're welcome to come to us with any other suggestions, but what we are obviously keen to explore is your interest and your appetite for more what we're terming Connect, Share, Network sessions for practitioners to particularly bring and share ideas, experiences and insights. The sessions we've run over the last few months have been quite successful, usually when there's been a particular theme such as speaking, listening and communicating, or maybe looking at aspects of maths. So keen to see what interest there is in those going forward. Also interested to get your thoughts on whether you'd be interested in sort of chargeable CPD training, kind of not necessarily a service that we provide for free, but what might be available as kind of more formal training on particular aspects of maths, English or ESOL delivery. Another thing we've launched in recent months has been a series each month of what we term new to working with us introductory sessions for either new organisations or new individuals to sort of help navigate with little kind of just key things like finding information, the right information on the website, documents that you need to have to hand, and so forth. Also envisaging keeping these monthly update sessions going, so again keen to get people's thoughts on whether those would be, we're assuming people will find those useful, but any particular thoughts about format and scope of those in the future. And then just finally, we were interested in trying to sort of gauge people's appetite for face-to-face versus remote events. Anything ranging between being completely webinared out and being desperate to meet face-to-face, through recognising that a bit of a mixed economy is probably a good thing, to the other extreme, which is kind of recognising that actually people's ability to meet face-to-face is probably in practice quite limited, and therefore you'd be happy for the default to be virtual events. If you have any particular thoughts on any of these, you're absolutely welcome to drop us an email to pre-employment@cityandguilds.com. Obviously any thoughts that you might wish to share. So that brings us to the end of the recorded segment of this session. Obviously, as always, thanks for your attention, and we will see you again hopefully for another webinar next month. Bye for now.